Chapter 32. Desperate Situation. Lee. A sharp and clear sound rang out. Following that, a black shadow streaked across the sky and ruthlessly smashed into an ancient tree. The ancient tree swayed and some leaves fell down. The black shadow also powerlessly fell to the ground. Not long after, Xiaoyan flapped his heavenly phoenix wings and arrived in front of the ancient tree. He looked at the unconscious black feathered crow and lightly exhaled. He wiped away the blood on his arm and slowly landed on the ground. Looking at the ancient tree in front of him, Xiaoyan took a deep breath. The Origin Monarch Key in his body crazily surged and gathered in his right fist. Then, with a light shout, his fist, which was wrapped by a thick Origin Monarch Key, smashed towards the ancient tree without any fancy moves. A crisp cracking sound suddenly rang out, and wood splinters flew in all directions. Feeling the pain coming from his fist, Xiaoyan could not help but grimace in pain. He waved his hand and looked at the part where his fist hit. Surprisingly, there was a fist-sized hole the size of a head. As expected, my strength has increased a lot. Without using the sky spill fist, I can punch a hole in the ancient tree. Thinking back to when he had just arrived in the Great World, using the Flame Dragon Rush could only slightly scorch an ancient tree. But now, the power of an ordinary punch was more than several times stronger than when he had used the Flame Dragon Rush. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Xiaoyan once again felt the Origin Monarch Key flowing within his body. It was like a rushing river, as if he couldn't control himself. During this half a month, my strength has increased rapidly with the help of the intimidating key. My strength has already reached the middle stage of the 9 stars realm, and I'm only half a step away from the late stage of the 9 stars realm. But if I want to reach the peak of the 9 stars realm, I'll need at least 2 months. Sighing lightly, Xiaoyan leaned against the ancient tree and sat down. Sitting on the ground filled with fallen leaves, Xiaoyan looked at the sky that was covered by yellow leaves. He mumbled, "It's late autumn again, the cycle of 4 seasons." Time flew by. It has been more than a year. He flicked his finger. After pondering for a moment, Xiaoyan's mind moved. The Chaos Great Monarch flame appeared around his body. After that, Xiaoyan was not worried. His mind slightly sank, and a ray of light entered his mind. This ray of light was the information Xiaoyan exchanged for with Zhao Qingshan using a drop of the fiery spiritual blood. During this period of time, Xiaoyan had been looking at it from time to time, and he gradually had a rough understanding of the alchemy system of the Great World. The initial title of alchemist was Little Alchemist, and what he refined was not edible medicine pills. It was the medicinal liquid, which had the same effect as the bone spiritual liquid Xiaoyan had refined before. As for the process of concocting the medicinal liquid, it was also the first step for apprentice alchemists to grasp the flame and familiarize themselves with the medicinal ingredients. This step was the most important step for early-stage apprentice alchemists. Thus, in the early stages, the guidance of a Grandmaster Apothecary was indispensable. Seeing this, Xiaoyan could not help but laugh bitterly. He was in the boundless forest domain, and besides devil beasts, there were also spirit beasts by his side. When he went there, he would seek guidance from a great alchemist, not to mention the information he received. One of the 4 essential factors to becoming an alchemist was an extremely strong cultivation talent. The cultivation talent mentioned here was that one could quickly refine Origin Monarch Key. It would allow the Origin Monarch Key in his body to be filled to the brim. This would ensure that there would be sufficient medicine pills to be used to squander when refining Origin Monarch Key. This required a profound cultivation method, even though Xiaoyan was confident in his own talent. Hong Long. In the alchemy of a large world, the final step of forming an Origin Monarch Key required a large amount of Origin Monarch Key to be injected into the medicine pill to maintain its medicinal effect. However, in the process of concocting the Origin Monarch Key, alchemists would also need to consume a large amount of Origin Monarch Key. If the cultivation technique was too weak and the Origin Monarch Key could not continue until the final step, the medicine pill refined would be wasted. Xiaoyan's mind withdrew from the light. He rubbed his aching head. Moreover, even if these could be solved, the most important part of the soul transformation was that it was difficult to solve it. From the information in the light, he knew that the soul energy of a great world was at least at the sovereign realm, even though all the fighting monarch of lower realm souls were also at the sovereign realm. It was the same as the souls of the original inhabitants of a great world who could not become alchemists. As for the soul of a true alchemist, even though it was also a sovereign realm soul, the soul of a true sovereign realm was the soul of a true sovereign realm. In the great world, only a true monarch stage soul could control all kinds of flames. After all, an ordinary emperor pill possessed strength that far exceeded a dou sheng in the lower realm. The lowest grade medicine pill in a large world was an emperor pill. Hence, only a true monarch stage soul that was higher than a D soul in the lower realm could suppress an emperor pill or even a higher grade medicine pill. However, transforming a fake D soul into a true monarch stage soul was extremely difficult. It was not something that could be done independently. It required the help of a powerful alchemist in order to have a slight chance of success. In this process, if one wasn't careful, one's soul might be destroyed. This was also the biggest headache for Xiaoyan. It was extremely difficult for the original residents to transform the soul of a false sovereign into a true monarch stage soul. Not to mention the fighting monarch of lower realm, it was not an exaggeration to say that it was extremely difficult to turn the soul of a false sovereign into a true monarch stage soul. Standing up, Xiaoyan shook his head and threw these worries to the back of his mind. It was still too early to think about these things. His current goal was to advance to the sovereign realm. At that time, he would have to take things one step at a time. When the season where the leaves danced passed and the forest domain was covered in a layer of silver, Xiaoyan stood on a cliff and looked into the distance. The endless forest was covered with snow, and it was a vast expanse of white. Xiaoyan took a breath of the cold air, and he could not help but feel much more open-minded. A day ago, he had finally advanced to the peak of the 9 stars realm. Next, he needed to consume the fusion pill. It was time for him to become a sovereign. Xiaoyan took out a jade box from his interspatial storage ring. Before he could open it, a faint pill fragrance wafted into his nose. As soon as the pill fragrance spread out, Xiaoyan felt the origin monarch key in his body become active. He suppressed his excitement and opened the jade box. A round medicine pill the size of a longan was lying quietly within. Fusion pill, a low-grade 4 medicine pill. If a trace of the pill fragrance is brought into fighting key continent, I'm afraid it will instantly increase by countless fighting key continents. Xiaoyan smiled. He took out the fusion pill and took a look at it. Finally, he took a deep breath and put the fusion pill into his mouth. After that, he immediately sat down cross-legged and formed a hand seal to cultivate. He circulated the surging origin monarch key in his body and started circulating it along the burning spell path. Very quickly, under the influence of the origin monarch key in his body, the origin monarch key in the outside world began to circulate. They all flowed into Xiaoyan's body at the center. Sensing the changes in the outside world, Xiaoyan no longer hesitated. He injected a wisp of origin monarch key into the fusion pill in his mouth. The fusion pill instantly turned into a liquid that contained some bitterness and was swallowed by Xiaoyan. As soon as the fusion pill's medicinal liquid entered his body, Xiaoyan immediately felt that the circulation of the origin monarch key in his body had increased by several times, and the time it took to circulate one cycle had also been greatly shortened. At the same time, it also caused the origin monarch key in the outside world to circulate crazily. Sensing that the origin monarch key that was injected with the origin monarch crystal was getting thicker and thicker, Xiaoyan couldn't help but feel wild joy in his heart. The fusion pill was indeed worthy of being the medicine pill that provided the greatest help to one's advancement to the sovereign warrior realm. At this rate, in just an hour, he would be able to reach the requirement of condensing the origin monarch key. Under the influence of the fusion pill liquid, the Xiaoyan's key around Xiaoyan's body became denser and denser. It formed a gust of wind, causing the surrounding snow to melt away. Xiaoyan was even wrapped up by the thick origin monarch key, and the thick origin monarch key even stuck together. They formed droplets of rain that fell to the ground. Within his body, under Xiaoyan's inner sight, waves of extremely pure origin monarch key crazily poured into the origin monarch crystal, and they were slowly compressed and solidified within the origin monarch crystal. In just a moment, the embryonic form of a thumb-thick origin monarch key chain was outlined. At the same time, Xiaoyan suddenly felt as if he had broken through a layer of membrane. His mind and soul had risen to a new height. The world in front of him seemed to have become clearer. Very quickly, the chains made of Origin Monarch Key gradually solidified. Under the medicinal strength of the fusion pill, they transformed into a crystal clear and translucent chain. After that, the chain began to move. It was as if there was a metal clanging sound echoing within his body. The chain was continuously replenished by the Origin Monarch Key, and it gradually grew longer. An hour later, under Xiaoyan's surprised gaze, the chains extended to all the meridians in his body, forming an origin chains that ran through all the limbs and bones in his body. The moment the origin chains took shape, the remaining Xiaoyan's Qi in Xiaoyan's body suddenly shook. They no longer poured into the Origin Monarch crystal, but into the origin chains. At the same time, Xiaoyan's aura also increased dramatically. The strong airflow caused the surrounding blizzard to retreat. A sovereign. That's not right. Xiaoyan, who was in ecstasy, suddenly changed his expression. Logically speaking, after using the fusion pill to advance to the sovereign realm, the fusion pill would immediately dissipate, and the original Origin Monarch Key in his body would slowly nurture the origin chains. However, in his body, there was still more than half of the medicinal liquid formed from the fusion pill. Not only did it not show any signs of dissipating, but it also circulated even faster. In just a few short breaths, a large amount of Origin Monarch Key were injected into the origin chains. It caused the originally thin, thumb-sized chains to grow to the thickness of an arm, and the newly formed chains were extremely fragile. It required Origin Monarch Key to be slowly nourished. However, under the effect of the fusion pill liquid, waves of Origin Monarch Key crazily poured into the origin chains, causing several tiny cracks to appear on the originally sparkling and jade-like chain. When these cracks appeared, Xiaoyan immediately felt a sense of weakness in his body. At the same time, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Cough, cough. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Xiaoyan's face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. He could feel the tearing pain in his body and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. As the origin chains had penetrated all the meridians in his body, the huge pain was like his meridians were broken. Xiaoyan's pale face quickly turned red again, and large drops of sweat fell down from his forehead. What is going on? Xiaoyan clenched his teeth tightly, and forcefully endured the heart-piercing pain. When he looked inside his body, it seemed as if the fusion pill liquid hadn't been reduced in the slightest. Every time the fusion pill liquid flowed, a large amount of origin chains would be injected into his body, and every batch of Origin Monarch Key would be injected into his body. The sound of metal cracking could be heard within the origin chains, and it could be clearly heard from all parts of his body. Zhao Qingshan, you old dog, you lied to me. Xiaoyan's eyes turned red because of the immense pain. His body trembled uncontrollably. The origin chains in his body finally couldn't withstand the endless supply of Origin Monarch Key. Under Xiaoyan's despairing gaze, it shattered with a loud bang. After that, the majestic Origin Monarch Key flowed through the origin chains into all of Xiaoyan's meridians. In just a moment, all of his meridians were filled. Xiaoyan's burning spell grade was too low. He simply had no time to absorb so many Origin Monarch Key. After that, the Origin Monarch Key continued to enter his meridians, which had reached the limit. In just a short while, Xiaoyan's body began to swell rapidly, and the thick meridians in his body became clear. It could be seen that Xiaoyan let out a painful groan. His eyes turned red, and the blood in his body flowed backwards. As his body swelled up, his skin suddenly split open, and a stream of blood shot out. The shocking blood instantly dyed the vast snow red. Following that, streams of blood shot out one after another, and in just a moment, Xiaoyan had become a bloody man. However, the Origin Monarch Key contained in his meridians didn't reduce in the slightest. The speed at which the fusion pill liquid in his body absorbed the Origin Monarch Key didn't slow down in the slightest. A large amount of Origin Monarch Key surged into the Origin Monarch crystal, condensing into an origin chains within it. In the next moment, the origin chains was shattered by the flood of Origin Monarch Key. Every time an origin chains was shattered, Xiaoyan felt a burst of intense pain in his body, as well as the loss of blood in his body. Xiaoyan finally could not hold on any longer. The images in front of him overlapped. It was a vast expanse of white, and then it suddenly turned black. Xiaoyan lost consciousness. Is he going to die just like that? Kai Lin, father. At the last moment, the faces of some people flashed in Xiaoyan's mind. He mumbled a few words powerlessly before his eyes fell into endless darkness. Chapter end.